This video is a response to Sensei Seth's martial arts, or just some of the martial arts that he talked about. This is in regard mostly to the Japanese martial arts and the one Okinawan martial art he mentioned. He spoke about Judo, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is the descendant of Judo. And he kind of just briefly delved into it, and be better, and I'm here to give some context to that, those lists of martial arts. One, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu is an ancient art developed in Japan by the samurai class. It was not meant to be a sport martial art. It is meant to be a martial art that on the battlefield, if one was to lose a sword, they were to fight an opponent, they would immediately be able to take that opponent, use his weapon against him, and continue on the battlefield. Many techniques were added into it from many masters and families and whatnot, and mostly certain clans in the Japanese society had their own style of technique, their own way of doing things, and so forth. Now, coming to the modern era, a man by the name of Kanojigoro entered into jiu-jitsu and realized that some techniques would not work for him. That being the case, due to his size and stature, he may have been shorter than some others, so he developed a system of jiu-jitsu, or what would be called Kano Jiu-Jitsu and later Judo. He developed his own system of grappling and play. Then, years and years later, as he became more famous, and the Kodokan, or the training hall as it's called, is translated, became the main primary sport institute in Japan. A man by the name of Mitsuya Maeda, who is one of Kanojigoro's main students or top students, went to a place called Brazil, taking his style of jiu-jitsu with him, or as known as Kano Jiu-Jitsu back then, and then later became, which is now known as Judo, took it to Brazil and many other places. And while in Brazil, he met the Gracie family, and they developed their jiu-jitsu, or their judo, as we call it, from what they learned from Mitsuya Maeda, also known as Konda Kombe, which is translated as Count Combat, and that's really cool. So, that was the main focus of their martial art. The Gracie, and then when you get to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, their main focus was not on the hip throws, the stand-up game. Their focus on was called the Newaza, which is the ground game. And so they became very specialized in their jiu-jitsu. And also, that is where you get the development of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Now, focusing on karate. Karate is an Okinawan art developed hundreds and possibly thousands of years ago in the islands of Okinawa. They had their own fighting styles, and then they assimilated because they had traded goods with Chinese merchants. They assimilated some Chinese martial arts into their systems. The main being from the Shorin-ryu, or Shorin-ryu, or the Nahate-ryu, which is the Nahate styles, which is where you get Goju-ryu and all the other other styles that have the Sanshin and whatnot. And then the Shorie or Shorin-ryu is where you get the styles for Shotokan, and pretty much in Shito and a few other systems. And then about late in the 1800s, a man named Gichin Funakoshi came to Japan and introduced them to karate. He was the creator of the Shotokan style of karate. And that's where, from there, obviously, with the occupation that Japan took over Okinawa, many other styles, became influenced into Japan. And then after the World War II, when sailors and also Americans occupied Japan and Okinawa, these styles began to progress and flow into, the States. Or even before that, some of them were flowing through Hawaii, because a lot of Japanese came to Hawaii. And some of those Japanese were originally from Okinawa, so technically they're Okinawans. But, it's always flowed from the east to the west as far as those martial arts go. In another video, I will discuss Chinese martial arts, how you can, well, not how you can, but some of the history, some of the most effective styles in the Chinese systems. And also within that, I will talk about mixed martial arts that happened in China, and also the modern day mixed martial arts, because to be honest, the idea of mixed martial arts is not a new concept. It's a very old concept, and we're going to get into the history of that later. But I wanted to address certain things because I feel that you cannot just talk about martial arts and not not give and just pick on certain styles and not get into the history, which is where the bread and butter's at. Because if you don't know your history, it can get you in trouble. And lineages, and people talk crazy, come on here all the time and say, I'm from this and I'm from that. And it's like, okay, well, lineage does matter. To an extent, lineage does matter. Now, some lineage doesn't matter. If the guy can fight good, that's how it goes. And, screw the lineage at that point to some extent. But, if the guy can make a martial art work for him and he has a lineage behind him and they worked for that person before him and, they adapted it, then it's good to know the history of that. And this is me signing off. Y'all have a great night. And Sensei Seth, I apologize for being rude into the comments. I'm kind of new to all this, and I'm a very blunt person sometimes because I love martial arts and I love the history of it all. I hope you enjoy this video, though, and pass it on to your fellow martial artists. Y'all have a great night. Bye-bye.